in what we've discovered in Central and South America in the last 130 years, it's nothing compared with the technology that we have today. We are uncovering civilization after civilization. Could some of these be Lamanite and Nephite cities? All right, brothers and sisters, welcome back to the program. Today we've got something extremely wonderful. How do you put it? Book of Mormon. How do you not love the Book of Mormon? As convoluted as it can get sometimes, it is one of the most correct book. It is the most correct book on earth. Right? Am I am I quoting that right? Come on, Troy, you know this. Joseph Smith said, I told the brethren that the Book of Mormon was the most correct of any book on earth and the keystone of our religion, and a man would get nearer to God by abiding by its precepts than by any other book. Did you know that I knew that by heart at one time and totally forgot it now? The most correct of any book on earth was a bold statement to make in Joseph Smith's day, let alone in our day of sophisticated publication. The statement is still applicable, for the Lord has never rescinded it nor cast doubt upon it. So, with that in mind, of course, there's a lot of different theories about the geography, which has nothing to do with the doctrine. Okay? You're going to get closer to the Lord whether you understand the geography, whether it took place in Mesoamerica or in the heartland over by New York or the Great Lakes, or the other, there's even theories about it being in Africa. It goes on and on. But for argument's sake today, let's just, okay, so obviously I'm being a little biased here. So let's go with Mesoamerica. Let's just say it took place in the narrow neck or the narrow strip. And then some say that only the Book of Ether, chapter 10. Well, let me read some stuff to you real quick here. Excerpted from The Narrow Neck of Land, Andrew H. Hedges. This was, I believe, BYU Religious Studies Center. And I got this. I excerpted a lot of stuff from different things here. And not to prove, we're not even talking about where it took place, but just that the Book of Mormon talks about a narrow neck. And the reason why this is so important is we're going to talk about Lidar and what that is. Okay, I'm going to show you that the Book of Mormon is uncovering, that modern technology is uncovering civilization after civilization. You think that what we uncovered within the last 100 years or more in what we've discovered in Central and South America in the last 130 years, it's nothing compared with the technology that we have today. We are uncovering civilization after civilization. Could some of these be Lamanite and Nephite cities? And we're going to watch something about that. But first, excerpted from The Narrow Neck of Land, Andrew H. Hedges. At some point, most teachers and students of the Book of Mormon grapple with questions concerning the location of the Book of Mormon events in the New World. We just talked about that. Scholars and readers from Joseph Smith's day to the present have tried their hand at locating key features and sites mentioned in the text. And we can count several dozen scenarios proposed over the years, right? Arguing that the text narrow neck of land, Ether chapter 10, verse 20, is primarily where that phrase is used. I think that's the only place where narrow neck of land is used. Lay somewhere between southern Mexico and Colombia. Most proposed geographies locate the bulk of Book of Mormon events in Central or South America. Others have suggested limited sites centered in the eastern United States, specifically near the Susquehanna River and around the Great Lakes. So, the church has no official stance on that. Okay, they allow scholars. There's scholars at BYU that I'd say 90% of them go with the Mesoamerica, Central America stance. A smaller group of people that are also well respected go with something in North America and say that the seas that the narrow neck was talking about was around the Great Lakes. Anyway, I'm going to read some more in a minute, but let's get to the video. Okay, this is Lidar reveals unique Mayan grid city in Guatemala. Now, this is happening everywhere. This is just one. They're using Lidar, which is basically radar or something where it scans the land and where they can see outlines or images where there's cities buried underground and underneath debris and trees and dirt and rocks and all kinds of stuff. And this almost like an X-ray, a scan where they could see underneath. Okay, what is LiDAR technology used for? LiDAR or light detection and ranging is a popular remote sensing method used for measuring the exact distance of an object on the Earth's surface. So that's what they're using. That's what they're using here. And they're using it. They found stuff in Mexico, Mayans, Incas, Aztec stuff, Toltec stuff. They go on and on. They're finding stuff in Mexico, Bolivia. I haven't named half of the places. Okay, so several different places, numerous places. I think they've even been to Egypt, but they've uncovered many different ancient civilizations in Mexico, Central and South America. So this one's in Guatemala. This is amazing. So check this out. We're gonna watch this and comment a little on this and pay attention to some of the parallels or some of the similarities between what they're finding and what the Book of Mormon talks about.
Here for you today. Let's go down to Lake Patan, Guatemala here. Interesting discovery. Large Mayan city was found here. Here's the area where these ruins were found under the ground. They found this by LiDAR. It's right down here. You can make out a few ridges, some patterns here right underneath the ground from overhead. You can just barely see it. Let's take a look at what this place used to look like here. Here is what LiDAR revealed. Looks like there is one big structure right here, but none of these go over, say, 40, 45 feet high. But there is a grid formation, a huge city here. Make out a few things here. There is a large structure right there, obviously. It says a peninsula jutting into Guatemala's Lake Patan is the site of the ancient Mayan city of Nixtun Chich. Time can cover up a lot of things. It says buildings and streets Pew hadn't noticed before began emerging from the data.
Okay, pay attention to this part real quick because, just pay attention to this part because it's interesting how he describes how the cities and the streets and the structures were designed. And you'll know why I was like, this sounds familiar.
And when he started piecing together a new, more complete picture of Nixtun Chich, a striking pattern jumped out at him. The city's buildings were arranged in straight lines, like the structures on a modern city block. Major streets ran almost exactly east-west with the shorter north-south avenues intersecting them at nearly perfect 90-degree angles. It was unmistakable. Nixtun Chich was laid out.
Okay. Let me play that again, and then I'm going to read you something.
At nearly perfect 90-degree angles. It was unmistakable. Nixtun Chich was laid out.
Hold on.
Things here. There is a large from the data. And when he started piecing together a new, more complete picture of Nixtunchich, a striking pattern jumped out at him. The city's
This,
buildings were arranged in
the city's buildings were arranged in straight lines, like the structures on a modern city block. Major streets ran almost exactly east-west, with shorter north-south avenues intersecting them at nearly perfect 90-degree angles. What does that remind you of? That's right. It reminds you of Salt Lake City. It reminds you of what the Plat. Let me read you this. What was it? It's called the Plat of Zion, right? Is that what it's called? The Plat of Zion. Yes. What is the Plat of Zion? Well, you see, Salt Lake City at one time was designed. Let me read you a few excerpts here, and then we'll get back to the video. I found this the first fascinating thing. Not just the fact that the city is right there on the east part of the narrow neck, and I'll read you some more scriptures about the narrow neck, but this is excerpted, written by Becky Thomas. When Brigham Young laid out the numbered street grid for Great Salt Lake City, he followed the 1833 City of Zion plan conceived by Prophet Joseph Smith for a mile-square city designed to expand into infinity. A grid functioning centrifugally, right? Yeah, I knew that. I know that. I do know that word. But centripetally, the grid asserted its sharp corners and defined edges, asserting a frame on the lives of those living within it. Citizens inhabiting Great Salt Lake City would look always toward the temple. They would forever walk the straight path. This is excerpted from the grid, mappingsaltlakecity.org. Okay. Joseph Smith's Plat of Zion included a grid system of streets, and Brigham Young and other early pioneers incorporated this idea into Salt Lake City and other communities when they got here over 150 years ago. At some point, however, we got away from that. We started building cul-de-sacs, and I know that because when I went on my mission there, you would have the grid, this holy, designed by revelation, this inspired grid. I believe it was inspired. And then all of a sudden, these new, and this was back in the early 90s when I went on my mission there, then you'd find these new convoluted neighborhoods with cul-de-sacs and windy roads, and it screwed everything up. And they're really not that pretty. There's really no rhyme or reason or aim to any of these cul-de-sacs or streets. All right, I go on. I digress. Our residential subdivisions became dead ends with one or two ways in and out. This pushed people to drive on a few arterial roads if they were going almost anywhere other than a neighbor's house. And then those roads predictably got jammed up. Okay, excerpted from Deseret News by Brooke Facer. The city's grid was designed so that you would always know exactly how far you were from its spiritual center. The famous grid system was originally designed by Joseph Smith and Brigham Young. One of the unique features of the system is its massive blocks. The blocks were originally designed for homesteading in the downtown area. Joseph Smith imagined the essential piece of the urban fabric would be the home. The reason Joseph Smith designed the large block size was to reduce the amount of crime and to allow for farming. The large blocks caused some challenges in modern downtown, such as pedestrian crossings, multiple lane crossings, and the need for cars, which creates smog. There are spiritual and physical processes that led to the grid system. Joseph Smith was really looking at this as the basis of a revelation to understand how the kingdom of God looks when it hits the earth. And there's a picture depicting the grid system right here. I believe this is Salt Lake. The Plat of Kirtland, Ohio, roughly 2nd of August, 1833. Here, I don't know if you could see this, but these are drawings and sketches that I believe Joseph Smith and Brigham Young came up with in Kirtland, Ohio. Zion. Okay, so anyway, I thought that was interesting. Let's go back to the video and watch more.
In straight lines, like the structures on a modern city block, major streets ran almost exactly east-west with the shorter north-south avenues intersecting them at nearly perfect 90-degree angles. It was unmistakable. Nixtunecheech was laid out on a grid, an urban form so unusual in Mesoamerica.
So here's the reason I brought up the grid stuff is, could this be Nephite cities? It says that the Lamanites eventually took over some of those cities to the east, I believe, in the narrow neck. I could be wrong about some of the directions, but in the exact coordinates. But I know that sometimes when the Lamanites were wicked, they took over some of the cities. Could these originally have been Nephite cities? And then they're by the coast, so maybe some were buried in the sea in 3 Nephi chapter 11. And could this also be the righteous, when the Lamanites were righteous, they built these structures? Who knows?
Here's a look from overhead. You see, once you get below,
they look like baptismal fonts to me, don't they? I mean, who knows? They could be also homes.
the grass here, these ruins start appearing. A lot of stuff below the grass here, but obviously, pretty important city. Here are some artifacts found at the site. They think this place got going around the pre-classic period, around a little over 2,500 years ago, kind of a transition period from the Olmecs to the Mayans. But here's another look from the site. Pyramid here, not a very large one, but totally covered up. What that looks like might be pretty interesting. But down on ground level, little rises in the earth here probably don't mean much, but when you get overhead, like a lot of sites, you can really make out what's below the ground. Lidar was the key to mapping out the whole city and figuring out what's exactly here. A defensive wall lined with a ditch that runs 1,000 feet north to south near the eastern tip of the peninsula could have represented the gash the gods made in the crocodile's neck. I have talked about how natural land formations were considered kind of sacred and symbolic by cultures from ancient America.
So you could see where this is located right here in Central America. Here's another area that was discovered a few years ago. They're just all over the place, okay? And it came to pass that they did not heed them until they had come to the borders of the land desolation, and there they did head them, by the narrow pass which led by the sea, into the land northward, yea, by the sea on the west and on the east. Alma chapter 50, verse 34. But here's the deal. Let me read this one. And it came to pass that Haggoth, he being an exceedingly curious man, therefore he went forth and built him an exceedingly large ship on the borders of the land bountiful, by the land desolation, and launched it forth into the west sea by the narrow neck which led into the land northward. Alma chapter 63, verse 5. And the Lamanites did give unto us the land northward, yea, even to the narrow passage which led into the land southward. And we did give unto the Lamanites all the land southward. Mormon chapter 2, verse 29. And they built a great city by the narrow neck of land, by the place where the sea divides the land. Ether chapter 10, verse 20. The land northward was a highly prized piece of land. The Nephites protected it at all costs.
Lidar is a new high-resolution tool used for surveying landscapes that is revolutionizing the world of archaeology. New archaeological discoveries are no longer dependent on only radar or even hiking through the jungle and digging things up.
Pardon the funky music.
Thanks to advances in technology, Lidar has literally shone a light onto entire civilizations that were previously unknown. When compared with older techniques of surveying ruins, a team in west central Mexico had taken 2 seasons to survey just 2 square kilometers. However, with Lidar technology, they were able to map the entire city in just 45 minutes.
This one's called. So I had to switch up because that other video was just so boring, and it wasn't even talking about the things that I wanted. So it hit on a few things, like the part about the grid system that they had. I thought that was fascinating, but then he went off on some other stuff that I. Anyway, this one's 4 awesome discoveries made with Lidar technology.
So what is Lidar technology?
Lidar.
Lidar,
Sorry.
which was originally a portmanteau for light and radar, now stands for light imaging detection and ranging, and it makes use of laser pulses to create a detailed ground map of a surface below. This is done by measuring the differences in wavelengths and return times of each light pulse to map out what the target area might look like. This technology can be used over land or even over water. Here are just a few of the amazing discoveries that have been made with Lidar technology.
Here we go, right here. This is the one I want.
With the help of Lidar technology, researchers have been able to take a peek beneath the canopy of the lush Guatemalan jungles and were astonished by what they found. Despite having studied this area on foot for decades, a vast metropolis of connecting cities had managed to go unnoticed. The project mapped over 2,000 square kilometers of the Maya biosphere, producing the largest data set ever used for archaeological research. The ancient Maya Empire was once thought to be of equal size to medieval England. However, this new research
Did you hear that? That's crazy.
This was thought to be of equal size to ever used for archaeological research. The ancient Maya Empire was once thought to be of equal size to medieval England. However, this new research shows the empire to have been extremely sophisticated and advanced, and could have easily had a population of up to 20 million
And a huge
people.
army.
Just a few
How do you pronounce that? Angamuco, Mexico.
months after the fascinating discovery at Tikal in Guatemala, scientists have employed the same technology to uncover an ancient city in Mexico. Lidar technology has helped to map an area with over 40,000 building foundations which had been covered by lava over 1,000 years ago. Despite being located in a frequently traveled area in Mexico, the existence of the city had previously been unknown. The city was also found to have a rather unusual layout, with its pyramids and temples located at the city's edges rather than concentrated in the center. Earliest evidence of the city dates to about 900 AD. Those are just a few of the interesting discoveries made with Lidar. With the rapid
Okay, so I will leave the links to those videos. So I hope this was fun. It's interesting. And there's so many theories about the geography. But you see this map right here? If this is where the narrow neck of land was, there could honestly be this many cities. Honestly, not necessarily in these exact places, because they're not. This map, I don't think, was designed to say, look, this is exactly where things geographically happen, but to give you an idea so that you could visualize in your mind's eye as you're reading or studying the Book of Mormon. And I don't have all the ins and outs on who created this map or any. I got it from images. But the point here is critics were trying to disprove the Book of Mormon a long time ago, saying that there were only like several cities found in Central and South America, and the critics are like, well, that's they don't match up anything Israelite or what the Book of Mormon depicts as being the type of people and their culture but we didn't know much about the Book of Mormon culture. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this, and that's it.